Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is finally Wednesday. I am so excited for this show to be back. I've waited so long, like I'm sure many of you have. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a once recap or not, but I figured, why not? So today is very special because not only is Once back, but it marks the 100th episode of Once Upon a Time. So congratulations to the cast of crew of Once Upon a Time for creating such an amazing, such a magical and beautiful show. And I hope there's 100 more, and I hope there's 100 more after that. I hope this series never ends. This week's episode was called Souls of the Departed, and it basically leaves off where we last saw the cast last season, entering the underworld to save Hook. And what's special about this episode is that we see a lot of characters that we've seen in the past, but have fortunately passed away. And what we learn is that everybody is there because they have unfinished business. Like, you see Cruella's car going through the street, and Gold reminds them that that's because of Emma, because she killed her. And things in the underworld are quite different than Storybook. Like, take Granny's, for example. Instead of having Granny's meatloaf or lasagna, there's gingerbread or children on the menu. Yeah. There's James, who's David's brother, is back, which I was surprised about. So I don't know if he'll have a big impact with them in Storybook. Not quite sure about that. Peter Pan is actually back. He's actually the owner of the pawn shop books, which makes sense because in Storybook Gold is, and he actually gives him this potion that will which I didn't know what it was at first, but apparently it'll let you contact the dead, be able to find the dead. And I wasn't sure if Pan was trying to be sincere or not with Gold, but because he's always very, very tricky, but it seemed like he wanted to, but Gold wasn't having any of it. And what was actually quite interesting is that the whole episode began with Emma seeing Neil again, and I was very surprised to see that he'd be back again. And I always was very confused about their relationship because I always thought that Neil and Emma were true love, and I always thought that she got hooked by default. But they had a nice scene there, and Neil was trying to warn Emma to go, to not to go to the underworld because it's not a place to go to, and it appears that Neil is in a better place and he's not in the underworld. And I think that has something to do with, like, if you die for if you die from heroic actions, I believe you don't go to the underworld. So this is a very Regina centric episode, which I was very happy about. And I was so happy to see that Cora is back. Like I've mentioned before, Cora is my second favorite character besides Regina, and she has some unfinished business. And I was actually crying watching this because it was such a touching scene, because the last time we saw them, Cora said to Regina, "You would have been enough," and they embrace each other. They hug each other for the first time, and you could feel that Cora has changed because she has her heart now. It's not like when she used to practice magic and when Regina was growing up, she didn't have her heart. And we find out that Cora wants Regina, Robin, and Henry to leave because this is no place to be, and she tells her what can happen and that her father will have to pay a price. So if Regina leaves, then her father will be fine, but if not, then her father will pay a price. And she was debating about this for a while, what should she do, and even Emma agrees that she should take Henry, Robin Hood, and Henry back to Storybrooke. And Regina doesn't want to. She wants to confront her father because she's always had, like her and Cora's relationship, her and Henry have always had a troublesome one because, like it showed in the flashbacks in this episode, it was actually Regina's birthday, and happy birthday, Regina. But all she wanted was Snow White's heart, and Henry was trying to talk her out of it, and to stop this war because it's only gonna make her heart grow dark. And he actually enlisted the help of Cora to try to talk some sense into her, because Regina listens to Cora. So Cora says that if this is what Regina wants to do, then she needs to finish the job. And we see that Henry and Snow meet, and Henry tries to persuade Snow to stop this war going on, to leave Regina alone and make peace. And we actually see that it's Cora, and she rips Snow's heart out. And we see Cora bringing back the heart to Regina at her birthday party, which was actually quite funny because the fool, which I forgot the terminology was, the court jester, was all in her face. I would have been like, oh my god, get the heck out of my face. I'm surprised she was able to keep her cool for that long. And you see Cora bringing the heart to Regina, and she wants to. She was a bit skeptical if if that was Snow White's heart, and Cora summons the magic mirror, and Regina's crushing it, and she could see that it's Snow's. But then what we see then is the cricket coming out of her shirt, and it's actually one of her guardsmen's hearts. And we find out that someone switched the hearts, and we find out that it's Henry who switched the heart. And what was quite interesting is the fact that Regina is the reason why her dad was so small, like it is in the classic Alice in Wonderland movie, and how we saw it back in season 1, why he was small, why he was turned small in Wonderland. And we actually learn, because she was going to keep him that way, but she wanted to banish Cora because she didn't want, I guess she didn't want her to be in control of her. And Cora, who was quite impressed with Regina's work, she was actually proud of her for a change, she said, fine, you want me to leave? She's like, she took the box that held her father in it, and then Regina was really alone then, and so that was very sad. But you see Regina confronting her father at the grave, and I cried so hard during this, because she was crying and she was asking if he forgives her, and he forgives her. And contrary to Cora, he wants her to stay. He actually said that if she stays, then hope lives. And she decides that they're gonna stay. And her and Henry go to where Cora had them before, and Cora's trying to convince her to go on the boat to go back to Storybrooke, and Regina says, no, I'm gonna stay here. And unfortunately her father pays the price. But what we don't know is that he actually goes off to a better place, and we find out that his unfinished business was Regina. And it was actually a sweet scene, because we got to see Henry and his grandfather Henry meet for the first time. And Henry Sr. said, thank you for taking good care of her, and Henry said, thank you for believing in her, like I always have, like he always believes in her. And Henry Sr. said to take good care of her, to take good care of Regina. And I cried so hard because it was so touching. I loved to see Henry and his grandfather meet for the first time. It was so special. I would love to see him meet Daniel, because his name's Henry Daniel Mills. And they went back, and I felt so bad about that. And they go and tell them what happened, and they decide that they're going to try to get everyone's unfinished business. They're going to try to save everyone, which Gold isn't having anything to do with that. And he leaves, even though Emma threatens to tell Belle about him being the Dark One again. But what I found interesting is that the clock, which was stuck like in season 1, it actually moved again. So I have a hunch that Regina is the savior, which I always knew. So I'm so happy to see Regina being the savior. And what was interesting is that we see Cora sneaking into the library and going down, and we actually meet Hades for the first time. And what we learn is that Hades had tried to get Cora to have Regina leave. So we actually seen that Cora has changed with her heart. She isn't the same person as she was, and her actions were sincere, and she wanted redemption with her daughter. And Hades brought up how she gave up Zelina to better herself and everything like that. So she and he actually reminded her about her past, like being a miller's daughter, because I guess she said she never fancied violin music, and he said, "Oh, a miller's daughter wouldn't know about that." I'm like, oh, why do you have to bring up her past like that? And then for her punishment, he has her dress in miller's daughter clothes for eternity, and you could see how heartbroken Cora was, and I was heartbroken because I'm like, God, Cora can't even catch a break. She's always had her life has always been so hard. She's never had it easy at all. I feel so bad. I feel so bad for her, and what I'm not very clear of is that is she like does she go off to another place now with her miller's daughter outfit, or does she go back to Underworld Storybrooke? So I'm hoping that isn't the last we see of Cora. I'm hoping we see more of her again, because I'd love to see her show Regina that she has changed. Like, this is the person who she is now and who she's become. So I'm hoping we'll get to see more of Cora. So that's basically it for this week's episode. Next week's episode, there was a sneak peek that we actually get to see Hercules. So I'm glad that we get to dip into some of the Hercules mythology. So I'm hoping we get to see some of the Hercules characters. And like I said, I hope this isn't the last we see of Cora. Although I did find it funny that the three-headed dog that was shown in the preview for next week, it looks like the dog from Harry Potter, so I kind of like how they added that in there. So if you're a fan of Once Upon a Time like I am, or if you want to watch it for the first time, you can catch Once Upon a Time on at Sundays at 8 on ABC. I hope you enjoyed this Once Upon a Time recap, and until next time, stay regal.